Hello, everyone. Hello, Jose.
Hey, David.
Welcome to #Commissioned. This is South Coast Repertory's series where we get to highlight a commissioned writer and talk a little bit about what it means to be commissioned, move through the terrain of developing new plays. I honestly, when we dreamed this up, I was not expecting in any way to be a host, but then this guy's name came up, who, in addition to me, I'm a huge fan of, have been involved with some of the creation of his work, and I consider him a friend. And so I want to introduce commissioned playwright Jose Cruz González.
Hello, everybody out there. We're happy to be here and to just be with you, David, and just have this great conversation.
Well, we're so excited. Now, just tell me, you're safe and healthy, and where are you? I kind of know where you are, but let everyone know where you are in the country.
Right. So we live on the Central Coast, right in the middle of the state, in a place called Nipomo, California, which is, I'd say, about an hour and a half north of Santa Barbara.
Awesome. And you're good?
And we're doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's sort of funny that we have this platform and we ask our playwrights the same sort of opening questions, which I think is good for our audiences to hear. And I'm smiling right now because I know the answer to this, and I love the answer of it. But we'll get into your long trajectory with South Coast Repertory, and we'll get into your history, I'm sure. But will you tell us when you received your current South Coast Repertory commission?
Just a couple of weeks ago, and you called me, and it was what a you made my day. I know we had a conversation, and to get that call was from you was just really awesome and just exciting for me to return back to SCR, because I've had so many wonderful memories of SCR in the past as well as just most recently.
Yeah, well, I always say to artists of all sorts, don't thank me. I mean, I get the great gift of making the phone call. Thank, that South Coast Rep has the resources to do it, but also you've earned it. You're the ones, you're the artists that we're calling because you're at the top of your game, or you have a particular lens that is incredibly artful that we love. And of course, it was easy here because you and I have a separate relationship to SCR prior to SCR, but you have such a deep legacy with SCR. And I think it's been a while. I can't even remember, honestly, if I think you've been under commission from here. But it's been a while since that development trajectory's happened for you. For those of you that don't know, I'll just say that I opened my first season at South Coast Repertory as artistic director with American Mariachi, which is Jose's play. And I know, and so it was a great joy to make the phone call and offer you the current commission. And as I've said, and we've announced, you are the first commission of 2021, which feels both optimistic and terrific, So with that in mind, can you talk a little bit about, your writing process on a new play, from inspiration to first draft, and how that works? I'm sure it's not the same for everything, but what's your process like?
Well, I always begin with research. I want to know the world that I'm going to step into and live for, months, perhaps maybe even years. I think for me, I'll give you an example. When I began American Mariachi, before I started writing that play, I took a 10-year journey of learning to play mariachi music because I was intrigued and interested, and so I was an awful student. I didn't know anything about music. But I'll tell you what was so exciting about it as I began to learn about the music and study it with other teachers of that musical form. They always shared stories with me. And ultimately, I found American Mariachi in those stories, but also learned to appreciate and love this musical form. And so that's an example of how I love to delve into a world by reading about it, talking to people who experienced it. Because what I've discovered is there's always somebody that's in your audience that's lived that experience, and I want to make sure that it's right.
I'll tell you, it was wonderful, and it's remained wonderful hearing some of your personal stories about learning music and going through that as you're on the journey of thinking about this play. And one thing I love about you, and I'm wondering if you can talk about it as it relates to the ongoing work of a play, is that I know from personal experience, having produced Mariachi's second production in Tucson, then Phoenix, and then producing it here, it's not like you're a one and done kind of guy. I mean, you are working on it. You're still working on it. And so talk a little bit about that almighty kind of second production, or you getting through that first one, and then how that informs the work that you might continue to do on it if you're putting brush strokes in it, you know?
What a gift it is to, of course, have a premiere of a play when you first have written it, and you come together with the team and then have an audience. But it really lives and grows in that second, third production, even beyond that. And we're still working on it. I'm still working on that play, really tweaking, trying to find everything I can squeeze out of it in terms of storytelling, so that the first time an audience sees it, it just, it sparks, and it takes them on a journey without bumps, right? And that's what I'm looking for, is to remove those bumps, so that it's a smooth ride for them. And so, what's beautiful about working with a live audience, watching a live audience, is you watch them watch the show, you watch them watch those performers telling that story, and there's alchemy happening there. But for me, what I love about that is I'm watching them watch it and see when they hit those little bumps, and I go, is it them? Is it me? What's going on here? And that's where I begin to just start taking things away, or trying to clarify things.
Do you think that's the value of the sort of dangling carrot, a little bit of like the commission that you might get to, whether it's a reading or development, having that audience feedback? I'm sort of leading this because I want to know the difference between getting a commission and just kind of writing one day and saying, I don't have a commission, but I'm going to write a play. But on the commission track, is that knowing that you have timelines, knowing that you've got some due dates, but also that you're going to get that audience sort of thing that helps carve out the path of the play? Is that part of the appeal, other than obviously the money and all those things?
Well, I'll tell you, I would, whether it's a commission play or not a commission play, I'm still going to approach it the same way.
Cool.
I'm going to give it all I have. And I think the beauty for me with, I love exploring a story, and I love to, find crazy enough artists to want to work with me and discover it together, and look for that heartbeat. And that's the beautiful thing about your collaborators when you get into a room, because you've been isolated for quite a long time working on the play, and then suddenly you're in a room with sometimes a lot of strangers, sometimes they're friends, colleagues that you've worked with before, or not. And suddenly this magic happens where these actors take these words and they make these characters come to life that you've been imagining in your head. And suddenly they're putting their DNA into your script. And there's something really beautiful about that. And then to take it to an audience and then see how they respond to it. It's a real gift to have that, and then to take that back home, back to the writing room, back to your study, and continue to sort of refine it.
Yeah. Well, I remember I was working at the Denver Center when we first met, and I can't remember, was it Sunsets and Margaritas?
Sunsets and Margaritas.
That when we came to the Denver Center, and I was in the acting company then, and I think that's when we first met. And I remember thinking, you were just mentioning bumps in the road. I was thinking goosebumps, because one of the things about now knowing you too for many years, I sort of get goosebumps about your work, because I know it's personal. I know that all of it has you in it, and now seeing you in a room and working with you in a room, and that we share some similar aesthetics. I think I remember meeting you thinking, this is the most warm, open, vulnerable, and sharing playwright that at that point I'd come across. And I know we sort of went like this, although just anecdotally, I can't remember. I think my wife was a dresser on that show actually at that point. Stephanie was, yeah, like on crew. And she came home with stories, and I wonder if you could talk just about that, like the personal side. You did a little bit with the music in mariachi, but like, and then watching it come to life. Do you ever get nervous? Like, oh, there's a huge piece of myself constantly on stage with these different stories.
No, I think I'll tell you about writing plays is in a way for me therapy, because I get to explore the past as well as the present of who I am, but I can project it into these stories, into these characters. And also just a shout out to you, David. I remember seeing you in Plainsong. I think it was Plainsong at Denver.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of the most amazing productions I'd ever seen. But the scene that you were in, one of the first scenes there, was so amazing. And so it's a shout out back to you, because I just love
Oh,
that.
thanks.
I want us to, I hope that we'll have an opportunity to work on this commission, because I love that work that you did. And, just you're awesome.
Thanks. No, I mean, it's been fun. I remember, even calling you the commission. It was, you and I've been talking for years about how we might intersect on something, and as I've said all along, whether I'm just artistic director, it's a great gift, or whether we find other avenues for us to collaborate. And I know in any form that this new play that you've been commissioned to write will be personal, and it will, I think, cement even further our relationships. I'm looking forward to. And I wonder if that isn't a good segue to, are all these commissions and all these plays, right, they're all personal, but how about the relationships to the theater? I mean, I know you have a lot of relationships with different theaters. This one you have long history with. You want to talk a little bit about that side of your work, and then what that means in terms of the support going forward with a new play?
Yeah. I think for me, the sort of the journey, I guess. And geez, David, I forgot the question. What was the
Well,
question?
it's just about, you have a new commission, but this theater, you have a lot of relationships with a lot of theaters, but you have a specific history with this theater, separate
Yeah,
from me.
yeah.
And I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that history, and how that also kind of informs what you might be thinking about with a new play in the future.
Right. Well, I grew up professionally at South Coast Repertory, and
Amazing.
and I worked in the literary office for many, many years, and so one of the things was reading plays, and looking how storytellers were telling their stories, and so structure really became important to understand. Again, of course, watching the productions that we did there, and starting out as a director and learning that world, all those things really help inform me as a storyteller today, because I understand what I love about commissions is timelines.
Oh,
I love timelines because I know this is what I've got to work with, and also what are the needs of the theater. I know if I'm writing a play for, say, a play for theater for young audiences, and specifically it's a play that will tour, then I know what those parameters are going to be. And I love those parameters, because once I know what those structures are, then I can begin to think about how then to construct a story that will fit the needs of that place.
yes. Well, everyone here at SCR, past and present, you mentions your name, and there's an immediate, oh, I love Jose, you know, and that's so powerful to hear as a relatively new artistic director here, but I think on any level of the staff, because it may translate to pressure for you, but we are all so excited to see and hear and read what you come up with. And there's trust, and I think that artistic trust is a crucial element to the success of development of very vulnerable material, right? Because it's
Yeah.
patience and love and feedback, right? And critical feedback from us to you, from you to us. And can you chart through a little bit, you know, the impact of a commission in terms of that development side, whether it's through like getting notes, being able to send back and forth drafts, having readings. What does that do to the process for a writer?
Well, I'll tell you, I love working with the creatives, and I mean
Right.
the director, and of course the dramaturg, and anybody there that's willing to give me feedback, because you never know where a good idea is going to come from, and I want them to challenge me, because I want to get deeper each time I go into a draft. It's not just one draft. It's going to be many, many drafts until you find the heartbeat of that story and those characters. And I want smarter people in the room challenging me.
Right. That's what I say. That's what I grew up with, the sort of lesson of play tennis with people that are better than you.
Yeah.
So you want to get better? Chase
Yeah.
down some balls, for an hour. I love hearing that. Do you? This is a odd, maybe funny question, but do you have any bizarre sort of or odd habits or rituals as a writer? Like I write at 4 a.m, or like I have to have like a diet ginger ale, or I don't know, something that you go, yeah, this is a little strange, but it works for me.
Yeah, I start with a bottle of scotch. No, you're just kidding.
Hey, Jose, it's the theater. That's not odd.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you, my wife has said to me, my only ritual is actually I get up pretty early in the morning. I love getting up early in the morning before everybody's up, before the sun's even up. And the coffee's ready to go. Boom, I get into my study and I work, because I'm so excited to get up in the morning to start working on something. And but my wife says to me, I said, do you ever sort of hear out? She says, the only time I ever hear you is I hear you talking to yourself. And of course, what I'm doing is I'm reading the characters' lines out. And so I'm constantly talking to myself. And so I have many neighbors that come in and knock on the door and, talk to my wife in the living room or something. I try to keep it down, but I'm.
And sometimes it's in 2 languages, I bet.
Yeah.
Which is thematic in your plays, right?
Yeah.
Which I love. That's hilarious. Do you have, so I was going to ask you your favorite time of day to write, but you're a morning person. What does, like 4:30, 5?
Well, it depends on the project, depends on the timeline. And now for me, today, I think I was up at just about 5:40.
Yep.
And sort of look at the news a little bit in terms of reading what's happening in the world. And I think by 6, I was already writing away, until I finish, either it's 2 or 3 hours. And then I'll go take a walk, get a nice walk in, and come back, maybe have lunch, do some chores, and then get back in the afternoon at it again.
Yeah, I love it. I'm kind of a morning person too. I share some of those feelings. It's like quiet, just being able to focus on that stuff. Do you does that get tricky when you actually go into rehearsal for something you're actively writing in a play, and then all of a sudden your days are getting longer?
Oh, it's I've discovered when you're, say, in a workshop process and you're there at the theater, and you're spending maybe 8 hours a day in rehearsal, and then I'll go back to my room to do rewrites based upon what we've learned. So I may have a anywhere from 6 to 8 hour rehearsal, and then there may be a note session that may take an hour, maybe 2 hours. It just all depends. And then come back and begin the process of rewriting. And so in some cases, I've spent 4 or 5 hours working, and then getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to try to finish, to make sure that at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, when the stage manager needs to make copies of the script, I know that that's the time I'm going to send that in to them. And I've worked up to every moment. But what's fascinating, though, as the week goes on, you begin to run out of energy because you're not sleeping as much, trying to keep up the pace of, of that valuable time that you have with the team.
Well, I know in every incarnation of mariachi that we did together, you and Acebo and we were to the very last minute of every day, like even making changes, thinking about something that's just a shade different, even through previews. I get the sense that you love that. You love the experience of the live, right? And then being able to shade and paint based on that. Is that a true assessment?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, most of the time, you're just locked in your study or your creative space, and now suddenly you're out there sharing this with the world. It is it is such a joy. I mean, it's a high for me,
Yeah.
because it's like we're almost there, we're almost there, and then when those moments sort of begin, when the magic happens, and those actors are doing what they need to be doing, and the audience is there, and suddenly they click in. It's like, there it is. And that is what I'm searching for every time.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if in your development process as a playwright, I'll get to see this more one-on-one, hopefully on this time through with you. But do you like that experience with the actors in process as part of the development as we go, or do you prefer to like just have a draft and then not have as many like voices on it? It seems to me like you really, I don't want to project anything, but that you're okay with like the process, knowing that it's going to be messy at the start and then it'll clean up and clean up. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've worked in different ways. I've worked where I've come in with a script, or I've said, I have an idea and it's just a treatment, and I want to go in a room with actors to explore this with them and explore it. And there are times where I've been able to. I'll give you an example. We did a play for young audiences called The Sun Serpent, and it's a story of two indigenous boys, brothers, who are the witnesses to the conquest of the New World.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that we were going to be writing it for 3 Latinx actors. But what was so wonderful was to have them, but also the acting company would come and go and participate when they were done touring or performing. And so we had, artists coming in all the time, and we were testing ideas out. And at night, I'd go and write, and then come back, and we would test this material out. But in addition to that, we also had a multimedia artist, we had a composer, and a
Oh, that's
director,
cool.
and dramaturg. And so, the result of it was so organic, but also so visually striking.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, with this project. So I love working with artists in a room and just discovering things, testing stuff out. And I think that's one of the things I'm interested in doing with this commission.
I know we talked about that in Denver, which I thought was an interesting thing about like getting in a rehearsal room and just looking at some material, which I think is an interesting way to develop. It's not typical necessarily, but it's like, hey, will you get some people together and read this? I want to just sense if there's a direction here. And I'm sort of all for that. I would love, and we will, South Coast Rep will support that kind of process, because I think it's exciting. I don't believe in any creative process like you have to have a certain architecture to make it a certain way,
Yeah.
And I just watched and I read I don't know if it's your latest, but I know you're working on an Under a Baseball Sky, which I believe is a commission from the Old Globe, right? And I
Yes.
was struck by it, as I told you. And one of the things I was struck by is I mean, first of all, I think your work is really rangy in a beautiful way. It just covers so many different genres and a lot of terrain, from the early stuff you've done here at South Coast Rep and into as your career's blossomed through a professorship as your time teaching, and then this huge explosion of American mariachi around the country. But Under a Baseball Sky, it also has, like mariachi, even though they're totally different plays, this element of mentorship, which a seam of sort of mentorship, which I think is in mariachi as well, certainly, with Mino and, and the ladies.
Yeah.
Like, is that new? Is that like a new, do you know? I mean, maybe, is that dad coming out? Is that?
Gosh, that's an interesting observation, because I've never really thought about that.
Oh, see, it's for others to like draw conclusions about your plays that you know.
Yeah.
But it
No,
does,
yeah. But that's interesting. I think for me, always the alchemy of being able to have a mixed audience. your season goers that come, but also your new audiences that are just discovering you and perhaps discovering the art form, and trying to find a way to make it entertaining for both those, and then try to. And I think American Mariachi for me, really showed that, where you could bring these different experiences together and tell a story of one for discovery of maybe culture, of a new world, a new genre, but at the same time for an audience that's never even walked into a theater, never seen theater. What could that be?
Yeah.
And so it's a balancing act, that's for sure. So maybe that's where I think I'm focusing on.
Well, I mean, they're also both in their own ways kind of triumphant, which I love, of course, because that feels like we're both optimists, I think, and want to see the world as a place for better, even though there's some heavy hitting themes and a lot of stuff that you write, right? People, even somebody comes out on the other side of it, somebody, not all, right? And
Right.
I also wonder, in your writing process, as you're mapping characters, is that something you're aware of, or do sometimes these things these characters take over you and you end up talking to yourself for hours?
Yeah. Well, I like the word mapping. What you're saying, because for me, I love this idea when characters, as I'm beginning to think about a story, one of the things that I try to do is I go to a bank of ideas that I've been depositing for many, many years in my computer. So anytime an idea comes in, or I've heard a conversation, or I think of something, I'll go jot it down in the computer, and I deposit that. And that computer, that bank deposit of ideas has been there for years. And so when I begin to think about a play that I want to write, I go to that bank first, and I withdraw anything that sort of resonates with me, because I'm also feeling what's going on in the universe, what's happening here, what's happening with me. And there are things there that begin to start to draw my interest, and I'll withdraw them, put them on a new piece of paper. I don't know what they will be, but there could be characters, ideas, whatever. And a lot of it may just not even, they're really just prompts to
Right.
get me to start digging into that world that is waiting for me to discover. I believe we have the stories in us that want to be told. It's just about us just finding them and unearthing them, and so I think that's what I do by doing that, is trying to unearth those stories that are waiting to be told.
Well, I'll tell you, we have asked on some of these, like, when are we going to get to read the new commission? I know no time soon, because you're 2 weeks in, but I do know that I am so excited, and I know you are, and our staff is, to sort of, as those ideas percolate for you, be here to, put the time and energy into fulfilling your hopes and dreams to have it materialize. I know you're no stranger to Orange County. You're no stranger to South Coast Rep. For just really quickly, what, off the top of your head, are there a few favorite spots when you're in town here working that you gotta visit? Whether it's a restaurant or, like, a coffee house or a bar or something. Anything comes up in your mind?
Well, I'll tell you what I love about coming down to Orange County. I went to school at UC Irvine, and I worked at South Coast Repertory, and we lived in Huntington Beach and also in Santa Ana.
Right.
And so just driving down the freeway, the 405, I see all these places I recognize. So I go, oh, that's where John Glor's car broke down one day, and I had pulled over and had a first aid kit for something. I don't know if he cut himself or something, and I see a music store that's down there where I first bought my boys one of my earliest commissions. My wife reminds me we went to this music store to buy our son drums and the other one a guitar. And so it's those places that remind me of my family and memories of my time in Orange County.
Well, your family here, we love you. I'm super excited for just the brief conversations we've had about the possibilities of this commission. I know it's certainly going to be a long trajectory and a relationship that will continue. Thank you for the time, Jose, and we'll look forward to hearing the new work when you're ready.
I will be calling you.
Okay, good. Call me.
Thank
you,
you,
pal.
Brad. Thanks
We'll
so
talk
much.
soon.